Good morning, I'm Lorenzo Mariani. We speak about two arguments: statutory management reporting in a listed company that is a project with the board financial consolidation, and new scenarios for CFO, data robotics, how these data robotics and machine learning may change future in CFO areas and in financials in general. Let's start with the statutory management reporting. That is a process of redesign and re-engineering the process of consolidation in Anima. Is a listed company. Is an Italian asset management company with more than 70 billion asset under management and consolidating a profit of 100 million. Only 3 companies within the group, but very complex scenario and environment to be considered because they have to be compliant both to statutory requirement of stock exchange and to Bank of Italy regulation. And so they have to create both this view. Before the board project, we have a data feeding process that was highly manual with some redundant activity. And of course, as always happened in this case, it was really very dependent on key figures. They spend a lot of hours, days, or many hours a day feeding the data, feeding the system, compiling Excel. And it was very onerous as well in creating all the reports that Bank of Italy requires for such an industry. Of course, the consolidation was run in Excel, and this was considered critical. Critical, let me say, it's too smooth because it's not allowed to use Excel for a listed company to produce a consolidated balance sheet. And this is due to this reason: traceability, segregation of duty, historical data management, check on the consistency of the process, and reporting automation. So basically, the scenario that we faced when we encountered Anima and the CFO was this one. So he has a compelling event to create a compliant procedure and compliant package due to new regulation that he was facing. Because the company went public during that period, so they need to move from Excel to a structured process. With the support of Reply and Board, Reply is the company that I represent, then started an evolutive process that re-engineered the process and the system, the reporting system. Basically, we have to produce a statutory and managerial view that have to reconcile together. Statutory because we have to produce, of course, all the information for stock exchange, and managerial because we have to provide managers all the information that they need to run the company. So we have to proceed to create an integration of the data acquisition from the subsidiaries that before our intervention was due in Excel, and an automation of the reporting package. And again, we mentioned here the traceability of the data because when you change figures that are published, that are public figures for a listed company, each change in the system has to be traced from the source of the data, that is the ERP, to the final report. Changes are allowed, but you have to track who is doing what, when, and which is the amount that changes due to an adjustment centrally made by CFOs or controller or whatever. Of course, we have to be compliant with these requirements and to create an easy-to-use application because the company was moving from Excel to a structured system, so they are willing to keep the ease of use of the Excel-like in an Excel-like system. we defined a project that took several months for. We will see it later on. The company and Reply participated together with these different, let me say, roles, because in some phase of the project was the client that has to execute some tough task that was not only the system test, but the population of the historical data and the certification of the historical data and the running of the historical consolidation. Basically, the structure of the activity is quite common and quite standard, because we started with the analysis phase, remodeling the model of control that is not only the report that has to be produced for regulator, but also the internal dimension of analysis that the management wanted to have in the system and in the report. So we redefined the model of control, that is the model of report, the dimension of the analysis, and the KPI that they wanted to track on the system, to trace on the system. Then, of course, we developed the application using both financial consolidation, personalizing and modeling what was specifically for Anima in the system. And through a rapid prototyping activity, we were able to, let me say, design, produce, and review the first deliverable together with the customer. This was very useful for them because they understood how board worked, how they have to let me say, report to us their needs. So we defined a common language that was improving and shaping during the process. And through this methodology of rapid prototyping, let me say, in this way, we were able to better understand each other and to reach rapidly the result of producing the new consolidation package. Then we defined what were the interfaces for the historical data loading and for the actual loading. And then after the project completion, we also supported the customer, of course, in the activity of running the consolidation. Let's have a look on the consolidation process. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the BFC. Basically, there are 6 steps. The first one is the parameterization. The slides are in Italian because the CFO ran the consolidation in Italy. And so here to define here settings that are scenarios, years, starting period. Here you can open the period, eventually insert currencies and the structure of the group with the percentage of equity of each of the company. Then there is data load from the transactional system or eventually external package. BFC allows to map the external account with an internal mapping of the ETL that is managed by the user, the final user, because the interface is quite easy. You will find external account that are the ERP account and the internal account that are the chart of account of the consolidation package. And you can map them in an easy way with a double entry table to define where the accounts will go in your reporting P&L or balance sheet, both managerial and statutory. Centrally, after the data load made locally by the company, there is a consolidation preliminary step that is, of course, intercompany reconciliation and adjustment at legal entity. What you see here is that through the workflow of board, the users know exactly where they are because they are running a balance sheet check, an intercompany reconciliation, or an intercompany reconciliation that is split in profit and loss balance sheet, as you can read here. And eventually, they adjust legal entity. The adjustment at legal entity level are due to change of, let me say, GAAP from the local GAAP to IFRS GAAP, for instance, are made directly inside board and not in the ERP of the company. And we can map the several, let me say, slice of the database of the company, distinguish what is the local currency data entry, gap adjustments, eventually parent adjustment, a contribution adjustment that, as you know, are the adjustment made at the top level of the consolidation group. So what board allows here is to split this adjustment and report with different columns the different effects of the adjustment on P&L and balance sheet. Okay, the consolidation closing is run by, of course, central users that runs consolidation procedures, again, mapped through the workflow of board. Here are mentioned a couple of these steps, that is process P&L check, process balance sheet check, then there are final check, equity check, verifying of the participation and the central adjustment. And finally, reporting. Reporting produced internal reporting and 120 reports for Bank of Italy requirements. These reports, of course, are run with a personalized look and feel page. And you cannot read it because it's in Italian, but we also produced all the reporting for disclosure, not for disclosure. And we produce the note globally, the final document with the disclosure management suite of board that produces the final document in Word with the tables directly linked to the data, to the figures in the system. So once that the users loaded their figures, run the consolidation with the central adjustment, they just click and update button in the document, and they will have all the table updated, both of the high-level P&L and balance sheet and all the details of the table, directly from the figures coming from the database of board. Of course, this is very useful for them because accelerate the process of reviewing the document. If there is one changes at the bottom level or for central adjustment, they post the adjustment, run again the consolidation, and can update the document with the disclosure, with notes for disclosure, reviewing only the wording of the document, because tables do not need anymore to be copy and paste, checked with some result that have to be cross-checked within page 2 and page 25, and so on and so forth. So this is really efficient in their process, because due to this they can save a lot of time in checking the final document. And inside board, inside the reporting package and inside the document, we put checks that, of course, let them aware of the fact that there are some mistakes or some mismatch, some mistakes eventually, and where they are, because we can say exactly that some funds, some depreciation is not matching the P&L and balance sheet. So users can open the specific form and upload again figures if they need a refresh from the ERP, or adjust them directly inside board. The architecture, the system that they are using is Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics, that they use as ERP. And for the holding company that is the bigger in the group, everything comes from NAV, because flows, chart of account, of course, is mapped, but also flows, also details of debit, credit, products, and so on and so forth. For other smaller company, The general ledger is mapped from the system, and some other details are provided using Excel. This, again, is a flexible use of BFC that allows users to be sure about the final results that comes from the ERP, and eventually details will be uploaded using Excel. This is due to the bulk loader. And, well, of course, the reporting package is produced both in PDF for Bank of Italy, in Excel for the usage of the users, and with the dashboarding of board that allows to represent the final result and KPIs in a very effective way for users and for CFO, for board of directors that are using this platform to check current figures and actual results internally. As I told you, the process took 3 months and then 1 month of closing of post-go-live support. The design was quite quick because we took only two weeks and a half. And then this rapid prototyping and review and continuous review with 3 steps of the development was an agile method to reach the final result in developing the application in more or less 2 months. And once we defined the chart of account and with all the details that we needed to be provided, of course, we started with the data load mapping and the historical data uploading. So basically, it's a short project. I don't know if in your experience you have faced a longer project or shorter, but this is a typical time frame for a consolidation project. The project output and the success of the project was due to these, let me say, main results. So statutory reporting, managerial reporting with the details that you can see here, cash flow statement, net financial position, net equity reconciliation, of course, P&L balance sheet, I don't mention them. And the very disruptive, let me say in this way, thing is that they have in one package, in one database, so they are automatically reconciliated, and they don't have to lose time anymore to check left and right package, statutory and managerial, because we uploaded a very detailed chart of account that allows the BFC to produce the statutory chart of account and statutory reports and managerial reports. Of course, this implies that the detail coming from the ERP has to be very fine, very detailed, and that you have to put 2 people, CFO and controller, on the same table and let them agree on chart of account and level of detail and time frame of extracting data. So you have also to, in some way, rediscuss the process, because sometimes these 2 processes may have parallel development with no match. If you want to put them in one system, it's not only a technical issue that you have to face, but also in some way a review of the process and review of some decision within the responsibility of who does what and who does what when on the figures of the system. This was basically our project that is now live. They are using it for, sorry, come back just to close it. They are using it quarterly for the reporting, for the quarterly reporting, for the annual balance sheet, and so on and so far. And this live, it went live 2 years ago, yes. Changing scenario, data robotics and predictive analysis. What I want to present you, discuss with you in the next 20 minutes is something that David Orban presented us in the first day, that is machine learning, artificial intelligence is coming and is changing our life. It will change our life. In this slide, I will show you how changed our life, or can change today, because we are using AI to produce some results for CFO and in financial areas. Just a brief and short overview of the company. Reply Consulting is a company of Reply Group, 800 million consulting firms all over Europe. Consulting inside this group provide consultancies on performance management, corporate performance management, risk and compliance, and we act as well as a financial advisory for the company that are going public. We help them in the IPO process of selecting software and selecting the control model and reporting model for the stock exchange and for internal purposes. What data robotics means? Data robotics is a set of technologies, techniques, and application that can design and implement a new level of process automation based on self-learning, and self-learning is based on artificial intelligence. The aim of data robotics is process automation. That could be robotic process automation or intelligent process automatic, RPA, IPA. The difference is how intelligent these kind of processes are and how machine learning act in this process. Just a definition. Some misconception, data robotics is coming. Everybody speaks about data robotics, me included, in all the meetings, and so there is also a trend effect. I put here some sentences about what is not data robotic. For instance, we are sure that not all the office work will be automated by RPA. This does not mean or this is not useful primarily to cut operational cost, and I will tell you what are the benefits of data robotics in another slide. And it's not true that the majority of the employees will be replaced by data robotics, but some of them, maybe, some jobs may be replaced by data robotics. And it's not true that somebody believes that automation is not reliable and accurate. It is, and this is one of the reasons why data robotics and RPA is facing success in the company that are adopting it. Another false myth is that the IT infrastructure could be too complex to be automated. No, it's completely. I don't completely agree. I completely disagree with this sentence because if you split the processing activities, you can automate some simple activities. And another wrong message is that we will take a long time to transfer the knowledge. This is not true because the AE learn automatically from the past and from the historical data. In which way? Basically, the process is in 4 steps. You will feed the system with historical data. This means that the robot is not looking at you, but it will look your figures and will define an algorithm to understand what to do with the input to produce the output. Then we'll test the accuracy of the algorithm. Basically, we split 70% of historical data to understand, to define the algorithm, and 30% to test it. And once that we define the algorithm and then we create the robot acting and performing day-by-day activity continues to learn wrong and correct behavior, and so its performance are improving day by day in doing. A human operator basically takes input data, have to think what to do, and produce the output data. And the data robot will be fitted exactly in the same way. We will show the robot a list of input, a list of output. Here, in this animation, the robot is looking at what the operator is doing, but eventually can upload the result of input and data, of historical input and output without the operator. At the end of the learning activity, defines an algorithm. These algorithms basically is taking what's in the expertise and in the know-how of the operator. So the robot understood, starting from input and output, what was the the reasoning, the algorithm that the man took to, or the woman took to produce this output. So we can test it, giving the robot other inputs, and let it test if produce correct output compared to historical output or not, and eventually, if not, we will close the cycle, tuning the rule and the algorithms. This is basically what machine learning and artificial intelligence means. Where's the beef with data robotics? Basically, not only reduce cost, but increase the regulatory compliance, because you can track every transaction that you do with a robot. Because the robot can explain you, it can take track to you of what were the input, what was the algorithm, and the output. And a single human being is not doing this, because we'll produce only the output. And efficiency will probably increase, because the robot will be faster than human being, will work 24 hours, 365. If replace a human work, if not, and if support a human work, can improve the productivity of the employees. For sure, accuracy is improved, because the algorithm is always the same. The behavior is always the same. If the robot identified that that was the proper algorithm, is not changing his mind just due to a hard disk on night, or too many cocktails, but is taking the same behavior of yesterday. Flexibility and scalability is one of is the latter, or sorry, logistical upside, or flexibility and scalability is the latter benefit, because if you have to double the input and the transaction to be performed, you don't have to double your employees, probably to add a machine, to add some RAMs, and so on and so forth. What can we create with these robots? I'm not taking a look on the future, because there are lots of applications that you can imagine and create. These are some real cases in use. Utility invoice automation, which was the case. Retail companies have lots of shops of retails, and and they have to produce a P&L by shop. Basically, this shop have to load some figures that are specific retail by retail, shop by shop. For instance, in this case, utility invoices. You will receive one invoice made of lots of pages. In our example here, for our customer, 60 pages of one single invoice that is mentioning the single cost center that are the single shop. And today, there is a person in administration that is taking a look on these 60 pages and is entering manually 150 lines to define the cost of, in this case, energy, but could be telephone, could be space occupation, whatever. So he's spending a lot of time in entering manually these 150 lines into the ERP, because this will produce a fantastic report with board of profitability by shop. We automated this task, eliminating this complex but very time-consuming task, giving the robot the understanding of what is an invoice, what is the amount that he has to read, the code of the shop, what is the main difference between a standard OCR system and a machine learning system. The difference is basically that you don't have to teach the robot different schemas of invoices, how to be interpreted, but you have to teach the robot what is VAT, what is the code of the shop, and what is the value the robot has to post in the system. And the robot will recognize it in the pages of your invoices, and if you change the provider, you don't have to retrain the robot, because he understood what is VAT number and what is cost center code, and he will look of these items in the invoice. In a standard OCR process, you will have to remap completely the procedure. Another example, expense report. What's happening today in the company? You have a workforce approach, of course, where the HR employees have to check the expenses report made by the other employees, and you have to calculate the totals, subtotals for customer or for kind of expense, and so on and so forth. Typical use case, or another, is to have thousands or at least 100 of expense reports per month. In this case, we have 5,000 expense reports with a median of 50 receipts each. And so you need 7 people to work on these figures each month, testing, verifying these expense reports. We used machine learning in order to understand which was the type of expense, the data, of course, and the amount. And automatically, this will be or posted in the system to pay back the employee, or if this is done by employee, you can use the robot to check the correctness of the data entered by the employees. So you don't have to scan to verify invoice by invoice, but simply give the amount of this invoice scannerized in PDF or with a photo to the robot, and he will check Lorenzo expense, Flavio expense, and whatever, and verify if they are correct. This works with more or less 80 to 90% of receipts. Of course, handwritten receipts are the more complex to be verified. But in any case, for instance, taxi receipts or something like that. But the 80% of receipts are being read, understood, and then posted in the system or verified by the robot. Sorry. So this is an example of what we can use, and in this case, the RPA tool is based on data coming from SAP HR, and he read the receipts. I don't want to mention here, let me say, all the technology involved. Just say that we are using a specific programming language together with the standard OCR to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the standard OCR in order to be sure that they interpret perfectly the content of the receipt. For instance, you have to, when you have a photo of a receipt, you will have probably take the picture in this way, and the OCR is not able to recognize anything in this case. You have tools that can recognize that this receipt has to be turned like this, and then standard OCR can read it. Or you have to remove some information, redundant information, to let the system understand the meaning of some specific tagging words in order to understand better what was the content of the receipt. Another task, invoice automated reconciliation. The case is quite simple. Delivery. If you are an industrial company, you buy lots of things, you will receive your purchases, you will have lots of delivery notes, and then invoices. And lots of companies have manual processes to verify and to check delivery notes versus invoices. Probably these two documents are in different systems, and you have to extract them from different systems and to check the consistency of these documents. Probably you will have an image and the delivery note that can be another image or some record in another system because it's the warehouse system or the logistics system. And people in finance will have to calculate line by lines, discounts, subtotals, and whatever, and eventually to track also differences. And eventually to report manually on the receipts on the invoice if everything is properly reported or not, and if there is some reason for invoice to be not to be paid. Of course, not all of the companies are using paper and manual annotation. Many companies are using mail and other workflow messaging to ask for approval for invoices, but this task in many cases is done manually. Of course, the robot can read the receipt, read the invoice, read the document of receipt, calculate any delta, and explain if this is due to quantity or price variation or discount variation, and report exactly the reason of the mischeck to the final approver. Again, intelligence in understanding what has to be read, what has to be approved and not, what has to be matched and not. Mixed with the standard, let me say, OCR. Last one is not OCR in terms of reading documents, but is a natural language understanding and reading something that you write or something that you say to your smartphone. Is KYO is the name of the bot, means know your order. Customer asks information to customer care or to their sales rep, and sales rep receive this or had this need or receive these questions about what is the amount of quantity, the list of product ordered, if there are, if such a product is available in stock or not, which is the delivery promise date, and so on and so forth. All this information are in your company, but in different systems. So that guy have to look probably in 3 or 4 different systems, if he didn't board and has not a BI tool to report properly the information. He will have to look in different systems to collect all the information because they are they are managed in different systems. So the idea is to create a bot as an interface for the final users that will ask the information, will query the information to the system. Here is reporting SAP because the customer in this case had SAP, but of course Navision, Oracle, whatever ERP could be interfaced with the bot. What we had to teach to the bot, to understand natural language questions, and verify if the way of understanding was adequate to identify exactly what was the subject to be queried and the system to be queried. Once you defined what the bot have to find inside your system, then everything is done because you will create some interface and you know where the information are. So the intelligence is here, and you, of course, will save lots of time in helping sales rep, customer care, in finding this kind of information. These are typical information that someone in a company may ask. For instance, you will have to answer this to the customer, or this could be an information suitable for sales rep, or again for the customer that is asking the customer support, or I don't know. This is an internal information, of course, internal that is suitable for some decision internally. But in other cases, customer may ask you, please provide me the detail of this invoice linked to the order number because he didn't take a note in invoice or something like that, and the system can resolve this question, finding the true information, giving you the information that you need to decide whether or not to pay the invoice or how to post this invoice in your system. Here is an example of the bot could be, this kind of bot, this specifically is a multi-channel bot in the sense that can be provided both on smartphone and on tablet. And the way you act with it is very simple. It's exactly a chatting tools. You will write your sentence. If the bot understands the sentence, will provide you information. If not, we'll ask you for more details or to specify, I don't know, the code of the company if you didn't understand it well, or the product code, and so on and so forth, and we'll give you the proper answer. In this case, the example was on the address or some information on the company, but could be, of course, on all the stuff that you want to give to the customer or to your sales rep. Go back again. Of course, you can decide whether or not to publish this to your customer. And then in this case, you will skip part of the activity of customer support, or to use it internally, because you will, in this case, give a tool to improve efficiency inside the company. Consider also that when you create such a bot and you use it in some channel, you will also benefit from other tools that are provided together with the channels. For instance, in every modern smartphone, there is a speech-to-text engine that allows you to question directly the telephone, to ask questions directly to the smartphone, and will translate your speech to text. From the text on, of course, there is the bot, is the same that you are using on your laptop. So you creating this kind of interaction or this kind of bot, you can eventually benefit also from of other tools that technology is giving us in current tools. Where are we now in terms of what data robotics, that is artificial intelligence, can provide us? Basically, at this point, we can create bot and perform some operation like manual execution, scripting that elaborate text or figures or whatever, and also orchestration of activities. Further, and this basically provide you more efficiency. In the future, that is in these years, probably there will also be some bot that will completely eliminate labor. This is, all, of course, connected to the intelligence of the artificial intelligence that will reach some levels that will allow the bot to take decision as accurate as a human being. Today, as of today, we suggest to use the bot to provide information to employees in order to let them act properly, but not to substitute a human being with bot. Of course, this is very dependent to the type of activity that you want to automatize and to the level of risk connected to this. But we are quite confident that in next months, not years, we will new technology and the way to program new technology in some cases will keep also to labor elimination, because activity will be completely eliminated. Okay, this was how Reply Group works on bot. This is how eventually this bot may affect your world if you are both in IT or in finance. And take care of it because it's continuously evolving and will affect our works in terms of accuracy, efficiency, whatever the objective you want to use. There is, in my opinion, a big opportunity to reduce the expensive, the time spending activity at with low profile, and to concentrate on high high-value activity that are data analytics, management, reporting, producing, and taking action and decision, looking at data instead of producing some data that systems are not able to produce automatically. Thank you.